Hey guys, welcome to the JMK Garage. Back in 2019, my wife and I made plans for a road trip to Florida with our two young kids for April of the following year. We were going to take my Mark 7 Volkswagen GTI, using this as opportunity to finally get to experience the twisty roads of the Smoky Mountains, including Tail of the Dragon, a place where I've been wanting to go on my bike since I first started riding on the streets back in 2014. My GTI isn't a bike, but would have still been fun nonetheless. Unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, that trip was cancelled as the whole world was in lockdown. A few years have since passed, and our family of now 6 still hasn't experienced Florida together. In 2023, we road tripped 8,000 kilometers across Canada with our camper trailer, and in 2024, we flew down to Costa Rica with my extended family, which the kids still talk about to this day. We figured it was time to finally make that trip to Florida, giving the kids a memorable March break to talk about for years to come. With having 4 kids now and all the luggage and accessories needed to travel in comfort, making the drive down to Florida in my hot hatch was just as impossible as riding down on my motorcycle would have been back in 2020, so we opted to rent this SUV instead. Surely the drive down south and back home in this monstrosity of a vehicle wouldn't be as fast and furious as with my GTI or motorcycle, but I was still looking forward to the trip with the family, especially knowing that our first few nights in Florida would be in Daytona Beach, which just so happened to be at the tail end of the legendary Daytona Bike Week. How convenient. Hope you continue watching along for the trip as we share with you some of the memories made along the way. Headed down to Florida from Ontario, Canada, we took the I-75, 23, 64, 77, to 95, spending the nights in Marion, Ohio, and St. George, South Carolina along the way, taking the time to enjoy the scenic route. Well, we officially made it to our destination, spending the first 3 nights at Perry's Ocean Edge Resort in Daytona Beach. This place was inexpensive with questionable reviews, but the studio room with bunk beds for the kids, proximity to downtown, and this view of the beach from our balcony made it the perfect place to stay. During our stay in Daytona, we spent a lot of time at the beach. However, that was limited to the afternoons as mornings and evenings were quite cool. We visited both the Speedway and Main Street, but unfortunately missed most of the bike-related action as we didn't arrive until the last day of the official bike week. Across the road from our hotel was Congo River Golf, where we played some mini putts and fed the gators, which the kids thought was pretty cool. Watching vehicles cruise by the beach was a sight we weren't used to, but pretty cool to see, especially with the vintage ones like this one right here. While touring around, we found a cool park for the kids to play at, next to this 142-year-old lighthouse. The hidden gem of a restaurant across the road was probably our favorite place to eat.
Ryan, you want some food? Yeah? You want some food? Yeah?
After our stay in Daytona, we made our way to Fort Myers Beach, detouring down to Cape Canaveral to check out some of the spaceships at the Kennedy Space Center. Then down to West Palm Beach, and through Central Florida, which to my surprise looked almost identical to North Dakota and Saskatchewan in some areas. We spent a couple more nights in Fort Myers Beach at the Lighthouse Resort Inn and Suites. We weren't really sure what to expect, as the hotel sent several emails warning about the island still being significantly damaged from a hurricane in 2022. That was true. However, we were pleasantly surprised with the Caribbean vibe of the island and would love to come back for a longer stay. The white sand beach, having dolphins swim along the shore all morning, and watching the sunset over the water made it hard to beat, even with the pier and various stores still waiting to be rebuilt.
What do you got there, buddy? Grilled cheese, oh.
Before we knew it, our stay had come to an end. We headed home taking the I-75 north, stopping in Macon, Georgia for the first night stay. The next day, we got off the highway shortly after Atlanta to check out a Buc-ee's and top up some cheap gas and fill our stomachs with some tasty food. After leaving that zoo, we stayed up the highway for the next several hours, taking the back roads to the Smoky Mountains to make our way to the Tail of the Dragon. It was pretty cool to finally get opportunity to experience these roads, although I'm now eager to return with a bike or car more capable of handling these windy roads. Hopefully someday soon. Well, that brings this trip to an end. Thank you for following through to the end of our journey. We hope you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing to stay tuned for our next adventures.